happy, 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 happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Happy New Year's Eve. I can't believe it. It's already the 31st of December. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to another CranKy Duckling broadcast here. We're live with something a little bit different, something a little bit special, I guess, kind of. It is a replay cast of an event that did happen a couple of days ago. So be careful when it comes to the command in the chat, because spoilers are on Wikipedia, so be wary of them as we're going to be delving into this broadcast. And again, happy New Year's Eve, everyone. We're still merely, what, 5 hours away, less than 5 hours away from 2024. Crazy. We're going to be casting StarCraft as we tick over to the new year. Hopefully not. I would like to sleep, Papi. I'd like to sleep at some point. So we'll see. I doubt it's going to be a 5-hour cast. I am planning to actually cover some viewer replays after this as well. We'll see, depending on how long those games go. So yeah, good to be here, good to be back, of course. The final broadcast of 2023. And for those that are curious as to why we didn't cast this live, usually we do. Usually we are live casting ESL Open Cup Americas. But this week, for the 207th edition, it was actually coinciding and clashing with another tournament, with the Masters Coliseum Americas qualifier. In that qualifier, we had players like Future, Estrella, Special, to name a few, Trigger as well, and we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to cover all of that, but it also meant that we couldn't cover ESL Open Cup Americas, unfortunately. So most of the NA players weren't playing in this weekly, they were playing in the qualifiers for the regional, or the region locked qualifiers. I do see Easy Phil in the chat saying that Vendetta played in one and not the other. Unfortunately, he wasn't a part of the Americas qualifier. It's possible that he was also busy at the time, like as in afterwards, later in the day, or maybe he didn't like his chances. Like nowadays, Vendetta is a part-time pro gamer, which is crazy because even though he's part-time, he did so well at DreamHack. I think he even tweeted about it. He's like, what the hell, I retired and now like I'm popping off and taking down some big names and performing really well. I highly recommend checking out the VODs of DreamHack Atlanta. We casted the open stage and we casted Vindicta versus a laser, and he did amazingly. It was crazy how well he performed and how well he looked against a laser, so I recommend it. As we're getting ready for our own matches here, again, we're going to be going over some of the earlier rounds before we reach the semifinals and the finals. There is going to be a bit of a break. There's going to be a break in between the round of 8 and the semifinals, so just letting you know, just to cut the broadcast in half. And then after the broadcast, we'll be going over some viewer-submitted replays. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been accumulating all these replays, and we are going to be going over them after the ESL Open Cup broadcast. So we do have quite a bit for you tonight. But up first, we have a bit of a PvZ. We have NightMare versus SortOf to kick things off. Big shout to SortOf. He recently returned to the game. He had retired. He had taken a break, gone on a big hiatus, and I believe SortOf returned around the same time as DreamHack Yongshipping. I remember we were casting the open stage, the open bracket of DreamHack Yongshipping, ESL Masters Summer earlier this year. I think it was around, is it like April-ish? I can't quite recall the exact dates, but earlier this year we were covering DreamHack Yongshipping. Of course, that was a LAN event, a big premiere event happening in Sweden, and SortOf happened to be living in Sweden, and then he rocked up. He showed up there alongside SortOf. Who else was there? Starnan, that's it, Starnan, an old name from years gone by, many years retired at this point, but we had a lot of like local Swedish players rock up, and it was really cool to see, really exciting, and that may have just like sparked that, or scratched that itch, and like sparked the competitive nature of SortOf once again. And from that moment, he's been playing a little bit more regularly. He's recently been streaming a little bit more as well. He went back to Korea a couple of months ago. He was there for a couple of months before returning back to Sweden, and yeah, it's been really cool to see the return of SortOf. I wouldn't say that he's quite back at the form he once was. There was a time where SortOf was amongst the best Zerg players in Europe. He was living in Korea for some time, staying with Scarlet and Estrella and all these other players in the, at the time, Team Unity Team House. He was competing in GSL. But of course, you know, it's been a couple of years since then. I can't believe it. This was, of course, all pre-COVID, pre-2020. And yeah, he's looking to kind of come back into form, and I hope he can. I hope he will. Again, I haven't been able to tune into much of his stream recently, but at least we're able to witness him here and now against NightMare. Let's go. first best of 3, of course. This is a round of 32 match, and we're diving into Oceanborn. Game number 1. Vámonos. Vámonos. I imagine SortOf was probably streaming his POV at the time. But here we go, spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Oceanborn. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss, representing Matcherino Esports. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the Swedish Zerga player representing Root Gaming. It is SortOf. Of course, a big shout to everyone in the chat as well. I see Babylings redeemed the first Quacker. We have Soundo, we have Psycons as well. Jigaloo, Easy Feel, Stan, Legal BBQ, Terran Lord. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you all. Hope you're all having a good weekend. Hope you all have something nice planned for tonight, or at least enjoying your time leading into, of course, New Year's. Leading into a battle. Whereas here, we're always casting. Always, Fappy, always. Technically, today was supposed to be a day off, but then the Masters Coliseum qualifiers were announced, so we had to cast during the week, and I mean, I can't miss a week of ESL Masters Americas, or ESL Open Cup Americas. I can't do it. No, it just feels wrong. So we are here with it, and so far it is going to be a Hatchgas full standard opener out of SortOf, nothing too crazy. From what little I have seen of SortOf's play recently, it has been pretty stock standard. He's not necessarily a cheesy or overly aggressive player, but it's been a couple of weeks or even a couple of months since I've last casted SortOf, so I'm ready to bear witness to see kind of how his style has adapted over the past couple of months and what he brings to the table against a player of the caliber of NightMare. NightMare, of course, one of the best Protoss players in the world, one of the best Protoss players in Korea. He is overshadowed a little bit by, of course, players like Hero and Classic and even Creator. In current day, I would say that NightMare is pretty comparable to Creator. NightMare's best matchup is PvT. He thrives a lot in Protoss versus Terran. We've seen and we've casted NightMare take down players like Gumiho and Bjorn and Cure as well. Like, NightMare is a beast against Terran. Against his other matchups, he's a pretty damn good PvP player. PvZ seems to be NightMare's weakest matchup. We have seen that time and time again, that if he were to fall to a player typically in a bracket, it would be a Zerg. So yeah, I want to give SortOf's chances a little bit, or I want to give him a bit of a higher chance here against NightMare, and I want to believe. But now, third base is being delayed. Behind this, NightMare, of course, getting into his tech of choice, and we are going for a very aggressive opener. This does make sense. NightMare, he typically thrives in the mid game in PvZ. He's very aggressive, whether it's a Twilight Council opener or sometimes a Stargate followed by a Twilight Council as well. That is NightMare's comfort zone, and yeah, with this opener, he can either go into Glaives or he can go into DTs. He hasn't pulled out a gas. This is looking like a Dark Shrine opener. If it is Glaives, then we may commit into more than 4 gateways, into a 5th and 6th gateway, but for now, this looks like Dark Templar. Across the map, we're still being as annoying as also delaying that third base. Oh my god. Forcing out that gas, guys, so we commit to the Shade into the main as well, and the Lings are going to be able to keep up here with the movement of NightMare. We can lock this down, and we will clean up these adepts, but not before delaying this third base by so long. Very delayed third. Meanwhile, across the map, we have committed into Glaive Adepts. It is not going to be a Dark Shrine. We did end up pulling out a gas a little bit later as we were, of course, controlling across the map. So Glaive Adepts is what we're getting, and it should only be 4 gate Glaive Adepts. Again, if we committed into gas, then we could go up to 5, 6, even up to 8 gateways into a 2-base all-in. But this is just a way to try to cripple the economy of the opposing player and get into a third. A way to get ahead and, of course, continue on into the mid-game. Meanwhile, we do have SortOf back at home, throwing down a safety Roach Horn at around the 4-minute mark. Very, very nice Roach Horn timing here. It does mean that he will have Roaches in time for the initial defense, but it's less so about whether he has Roaches, more so about whether he can be in position and keep up with the movement of NightMare. Oh boy. Here we go. Prism is on the way. Adepts are amassing as we speak, and NightMare is soon going to be zooming across the map. SortOf is aware, and there we go. He does spot the Prism as well as all the Adepts. SortOf going to be cutting workers here at 38. This is around the worker count you want to be stopping at here as the Zerg player. The queens are being brought forward. How many queens do we have? We have 6 queens so far. Roaches in production, Lings as well. We have a fully saturated gas geyser, just pumping out as many roaches as we can. And here we go, the army has arrived. The adepts are warping in. Now, of course, in a head-to-head fight, SortOf can win, but it's about NightMare trying to bypass the main army, slipping into a mineral line, and getting economic damage done. So far, threatening a shade so far. SortOf is keeping up. He has to be very careful to overextend. We're pushing on forward, meeting the Adept army out in the center of the map. We are going to be threatening a shade here towards the natural. But again, the Lings, they have been kept at bay, and we will cancel that shade. And NightMare backs up. He has seen how prepared SortOf is. He recognizes that, of course, he can't really get any damage done here, and he backs up. Really mature decision here from NightMare. Doesn't overextend, doesn't overcommit. Oh, good juggling, though. Does catch out a couple of these roaches. Oh, my God. 1 adept for 3 roaches. Very nice trades over NightMare. Good juggling as well, but we will get a couple of these adepts. Yeah, 3, 4 of them are going to be going down. Behind this, third base is being taken, and we are transitioning into what looks to be disruptors. We have the Bay on the way for Disruptor or Colossus production. I'm assuming Disruptors because it will fare a little bit better against the roaches, but we'll see as we do get us around. We try to get on top of that Nexus, but alas, we cannot. It is going to be saved, and SortOf is forced back. Behind this, SortOf saturating his bases, joining up to 50. Lair is on the way, gases are on the way as well. So far, SortOf is in a pretty good position, as long as he doesn't lose too many more roaches. Another roach going to be falling, 4 in total. And again, we don't have the most amount of gas to work with right now. SortOf, we can't afford to lose roaches. Here we go, NightMare going to be rotating over. Once again, threatening a shade. Stalker army pushing on the right-hand side, clearing up whatever creep he can. The Rodix Bay is done, and we have our first Disruptor. There we go, second Disruptor on the way. Now, we aren't investing into War Prison speed or anything crazy like that. We're just going to be incorporating the Disruptors with the main army. NightMare once again going to be actually splitting up his forces. His adept's going to be threatening the right-hand side. At the same time, Stalkers into the third. We snap an Overlord. Not too bad. We have plus on melee on the way, so it looks like we want to be focusing a little more on Ling Bane, less so on roaches. Baning speed as well. There's NightMare, he's retreating. Again, just getting saturated, catching back up in that worker count. SortOf, yes, he did initially defend, but what's important is that NightMare hasn't really thrown anything away. The adepts, they're still active. They're still alive, they're still active, and now we're going to be reinforcing now with Disruptors. SortOf does have the supply lead, but 1 or 2 good Novas, and NightMare can win a fight. Ooh, even without them, does catch out some of these roaches. SortOf not quite ready for this. We need more Lings. 20 Lings in production. The Disruptors have arrived. Nova's going to be going off. We can go straight for those Baylings. Oh, a little bit premature. Will connect. The Baylings do get shut down. Big connection. Roaches are pushing forward. We're getting on top of some of these Stalkers, but we have reinforcements on the way. And NightMare, he is breaking through. Did end up losing one of his Disruptors, but he has another. Has a Nova ready to go. 4th base getting up and running, but we're not going to be able to saturate it, not anytime soon. This NightMare is aware of that hatchery. I'm sure he wants to try to bait the army into him. The Zealots on the way. Hatchery is going to be focused down. Never going to be going up. Oh! Only on 1 Baneling. Good splits out of SortOf. Able to react in time, but we are chasing this pretty far off of creep. We want the Disruptor. Disruptor does go down. Good pick up. And as SortOf chases down this army, at the same time, Prism slips into the main. That should be going down. Prism taking a lot of hits. Meanwhile, SortOf, he is chasing this a little bit too far off of creep. Losing all of his Lings. Bit of a Baneling run by. Does come in from behind, though. Do get 3 Banelings. We crash into the Stalkers as well. But I'll be honest, I'm not too sure if I'm convinced by this yet. Sort of, he's going to retreat. He's backing off, taking his fourth. Likewise, so is NightMare. Now, what's concerning here, the bailing round by was nice, but NightMare, he still has a comparable, if not better, economy than that of SortOf. The pressure right now is on SortOf to make something happen. Ling round by runs into the main army at the same time. Zelte get into the main. The Prism should be going down. As I say that, yeah, the Sports finish up just in time. Prism does fall. The Zealot run-by didn't really achieve too much, but it did allow for this. It allowed for SortOf to be distracted and so many Lings to go down. So NightMare has been trading so efficiently with this army. He got 37 Lings for those 5 Zealots in the main. Very efficient trades. Nervous go off. No! There's no splits. Big connections on the Ravagers as well as the Roaches. SortOf losing a little bit too much. And NightMare, he may have lost those Destructors, but it was worth it. Was worth it in the end. SortOf still on a really low economy, still on sub 3 base saturation. We have less than 60 workers right now. And the problem is that SortOf feels so pressured to just keep building army because NightMare has been trading so well. It's in his face. Base trade might actually be the best option here, but here we go. We have Lings at the 4th base. The Roaches are turning back around. Lings are getting across the map. NightMare, he's focused. He's fixated on this 4th. The Disruptor getting a little bit adventurous. Is going to go down. Nice pick off from SortOf. The Ling harassed at the 3rd base was cleaned up. We have Lings at the 4th. It looks like we should focus on the Nexus. Likewise, SortOf loses his own 4th base as well. And the problem is that 3 base versus 3 base, better for the Protoss. This is negatively impacting not just the economy of SortOf, but also his production. Oh god. You have a bit of friendly fire there. NightMare did end up losing his 4th base, but still has a massive Stalker army. Here we go, we are pushing forward. SortOf trying to retake a 4th base on the left-hand side. Is slowly getting up and running. Still stuck on Ling Bane, still stuck on Lair Tech. No Adrenal, no 3-3. No Infestors, no Vipers. SortOf getting ready for a bailing run-by, but we have plenty to defend for NightMare. And you can see NightMare now exceeds SortOf in army supply. And what's terrifying here is that even so, like SortOf his army supply is inflated with Roach Ravager. So NightMare with a solid lead. Yeah, Bailey's gonna be rolling on in, but Bailey's, they do not trade well against Stalkers. They take down a good chunk of them. But without the Bailings, what is there really left? A handful of Roaches and Ravagers. Big Ling counterattack does catch some Stalkers. Good pickoffs. Does catch a couple of Stalkers across the map, but the main army, yeah, SortOf, he just cannot contend against this. Once again, 3 Ravagers get picked off. We still have 1 Nova in the chamber. Boys are being pulled. They have to be. Across the map, Ling's not going to be able to get a kill in the 4th base. NightMare, no one can get a 4th up and running. It's just not happening. It's 13, soon to be 14 minutes in this game, and there is no 4th for anyone. Lings, they come in for a surround. Well, big Nova on those Roaches. A good surround on these Stalkers. Once again, the Novas, they connect with the Ravagers. The Blinks are looking good. We avoided those Biles. Lings are running out. NightMare reinforcing. He still has momentum. And that was all the Ling Bane of SortOf. That's all he had left. And here come the Zealot reinforcements. This is what we've been missing the entire time. Another massive connection on the Roaches and the Ravagers as well. NightMare just doesn't miss. Just doesn't miss. GG gets called, and NightMare will take game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Again, sort of, I mean, I say sort of, both players really were stuck on low economies for so long that game. They just could not get a fourth base up and running. But again, that mattered a lot more for sort of, less so for NightMare. Sort of is the one that needed a better economy, needed, I mean, I would say economy more than production, but of course that was impacted as well. And yeah, the trades from NightMare were insane. Not just the fact that he had a better economy, but the fact that he was just trading so damn efficiently. Not just with the disruptors. That was the most like impactful or like visually appealing part of it. But like the Blink Stalkers as well were trading so well, shaving off so many Lings and so many Roaches and Ravagers. The army efficiency for NightMare was just insane. And with that, NightMare does take the first game, but we're going to be getting into game number 2. SortOf has a chance to bring it back to force the ace match. Here we go. Here we go. Your New Year in 3.5 hours. New Year's is... yeah, 3.5 hours. Wait, what? Oh my god. I thought it was 4.5 hours. My apologies. 3.5 hours. It's totally possible that we could be casting while we tick into the new year. I miscounted earlier. I thought it was in 5 hours. Aye. Regardless, here we go. We're getting into this, and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Solaris, we have the South Korean Protoss player representing Matcherino Esports. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the blue Zerg player representing Root Gaming. Down in the series, looking to fight back. It is SortOf. Doesn't even miss on his own units, true. I didn't want to bring too much attention to it. If you remember, I think he killed like 2 or 3 Stalkers, and 100%, because he was trying to connect with those Lings. There were only like 4 Lings or 5 Lings. If the Nova didn't connect with anything, it would have just been a better trade for NightMare. Like, he did more damage to himself than the Lings would have done to him, which was funny to see. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The other Nova's more than made up for it. All good. So we are settling in. Yeah, NightMare with the lead in this series. I did mention before, of course, that NightMare, he does thrive in the mid game, and I'm not saying that every game he's going to be going for a Twilight Council opener, but even if he goes for a Stargate as a follow-up, it should be something aggressive out of him. Whether it's Glaive Adepts again after the Stargate, or Charge lots into an Archon timing. I expect NightMare to be in the face of his opponent. And we'll see how SortOf can react. Winding it back a little bit, I also want to praise SortOf, right? Because he did well against the Glaive Adepts. The initial Twilight Council opener of NightMare did not do any damage. It didn't get into a mineral line. It didn't really trade well against the Lings. It did trade against Roaches too. To be fair, we minimized economic damage, but SortOf did overextend a couple of times. I want to say 3, maybe 4 times where SortOf did chase off of creep a little bit too far. That's where he was maybe getting a bit cavalier. But when it came to the early game, when it came to the openers, I do think that SortOf did handle himself well. But again, we have our tech of choice, and this time, Stargate. Stargate opener out of NightMare. Should be going into an Oracle first, but the Stargate is actually rallied towards the Overlord, so we may go for a Void Ray or a Phoenix. Let's see where this takes us. Again, a Void Ray or Phoenix opener would make the most sense here. I mentioned before that NightMare is a pretty aggressive player, and even if he goes for a Stargate opener, the follow-up is most likely going to be, you know, quite an aggressive one. Is going to be hidden. It's going to be difficult for SortOf to get a read of what is going on. And there it is. There is that Void Ray on the way. So the power of this opener is that with the death of this Overlord, the Zerg player has a very hard time scouting and getting a read on what the follow-up tech is. From here, we can go into a Twilight Council into Glaive Adepts. We can go into a Charger all-in. We can go into Skytos, right? Second Stargate and the Fleet Beacon. There's a lot available here to NightMare, and SortOf won't know what's happening. Or he's going to have to try to piece it together with very limited information. Void Ray is coming out. You know, behind this, SortOf just getting into his third. Joining on up. No early tech, Overlord gets shut down, and we have our transition before even the third base. Usually you go for a third base and then the Twilight Council, but this is that much more aggressive. NightMare immediately going for the Twilight Council and 2 more gateways. This screams Glaive Adepts. This could also be charged if we don't take the gases here at the natural, but regardless, NightMare wants to be in the face of SortOf. As now he takes his third. Again, a delayed third base. Just because NightMare wants to be that much more assertive. That's going to be running a shade out. Behind this, safety Roach Warren. Thankfully, we do have around a 4-minute 15-ish Roach Warren timing. A little bit later than last game, but at least it's on the way. So SortOf is playing very safe. He does get eyes on the third. And there it is. Glaives is on the way. So SortOf doesn't really know what's happening. But again, he's playing safe and preparing for the worst. Well, Void Ray's going to be coming in. Trying to pick up a gas geyser, maybe a drone or two. Means do zone it away. Now, the way this works is that there's no robo with this, so we're going to be warping in a couple of wave of adepts, and then we're going to be shading across the map, and we're already moving out. This is so fast out of NightMare. It wasn't just a fast Twilight Council, but Glaives isn't even done, by the way. As NightMare moves out, SortOf does catch wind of those adepts. Behind this, we have a Forge on the way. Interesting choice. Adepts make it here just in time to force a cancel. Well, that's a kill, not a cancel on the hatchery. 300 minerals down the drain. Adept's going to be threatening a shade into the third. We have a handful of links, but where are the roaches? Again, because this is so early, the roaches, they're not ready yet. They're still on the way. 10 roaches in production. Adept shading towards that natural, and we do have a full wall. Good SimCity here from SortOf. We commit anyway. We're looking for a way in. Oh, we do wall off just in time. But we're picking off roaches. That's the thing here. These roaches, they still suck. That's going to be a kill on the Evo chamber. Shade into the third base, but there's nothing quite to wreak havoc here. There's no drones. But we are denying mining, and this hatchery is taking a lot of damage. No shot we kill the hatchery, right? No shot. Void Ray comes in to support. That's another kill on the Evo chamber. Lynx are having a hard time engaging. We're pushing into that natural. But there are too many roaches. Shade towards that third base. But again, SortOf did a great job of just maintaining his workers, keeping all of his drones alive. And SortOf has held. Oh, did I speak too soon? Okay, we're good. SortOf has held. He's had some inefficient mining, only just now able to get his third base up and running, but he does maintain all of his workers. That's what's important. Behind this, Lair is done. Roach speed is on the way. Void Ray gets picked up. And NightMare is working on his next step, going for +1 Blink Stalkers alongside some Immortals as well. Something else we also have to bear in mind, sure, NightMare didn't kill any drones, or killed very few, that is true. But he did kill the third. Sorry, he killed the fourth. And that's a pretty big moment there. He killed it, and we weren't able to rebuild it until now. So, SortOf, he's in a decent position, but it's not amazing. I would actually say maybe things are still neck and neck between NightMare and SortOf. As the dust does settle, Stalkers have arrived, Blink is done, and we are looking for another denial of the fourth. And I'm getting deja. Oh, no. We do cancel. But I'm getting deja vu where in game 1, neither player could ever take a fourth base, and SortOf is struggling. Hallucination coming in. Stalkers almost get caught out. They do blink away. The rest of the army is rotating over. Thankfully, SortOf does back up. As he does get baited in. Big force fields as well. We catch so many of these things. Very nice trap there from NightMare. And SortOf is double expanding. He needs to. He needs to double expand. He needs to get one of these bases up and running to be able to sustain himself. You can see that NightMare now has a supply lead. He has a more efficient army as well. He's got 3 Immortals, force fields, sentries, plenty of Blink Stalkers. +1 is done. Prism is on the way to reinforce and to juggle those Immortals. And this push is going to hit like a truck. Fourth base has been spotted. NightMare pushing on the same side as his fourth. Bailey's going to try and roll in good force fields. Bailey's able to barely connect with some of those Immortals, but alas, it's not going to be enough. Where's that Prism, by the way? The Immortal's getting very low. First Immortal goes down, but we're running out of roaches, running out of army. We just take the Baileys to the face. It doesn't even matter. The Stalk army breaks through. Sort of that Ling. I was expecting a Ling counterattack elsewhere, but alas, he's racing back home. Now the Prism does arrive after the Immortals went down. But NightMare, he has more than enough when it comes to pure Stalkers. The sheer amount of Stalkers here just overwhelming, sort of. Doesn't have enough. Ling's going to be going down, and sort of is being broken. We ignore the fourth base. We go straight for the kill, straight for the third. Bailing's crashing, but again, it is just not enough. And GG is going to get called. NightMare taking the series 2-0, taking down SortOf. GG. GG, well played. A solid game there out of NightMare. SortOf, again, here in game 2, did a good job playing safely, and hey, he saved all his drones, but again, it wasn't just about saving the workers. There was so much lost mining time there. I think we killed 3 Evo chambers. Remember, there were 2 Evo chambers that died morphing in, and the third one as well from the Void Ray. We killed the fourth base. Like, damage was still being done, and of course, 0 mining at the third for so long. It was enough to allow NightMare to have those adepts pay for themselves, more than pay for themselves. And then, of course, we had that follow-up, and SortOf, he was stuck on 3 bases, stuck with a subpar economy. As a result, a subpar army. And NightMare did overwhelm. GG. GG, well played. With that, NightMare does advance on into the next round. And we are here to follow him. Up next, NightMare is going to be going up against Skillous in a PvP. Let's go.